Is it a good idea for the U.S. government to blow up boats in the Caribbean? And if not, why not? My name is Dr. Glenn Berger, and if you like what I have to say, please subscribe and like, and click the link in the comments below to join my online self-cultivation course. So here are the facts. Since September 1st, it's reported that 5 to 7 boats have been destroyed by the Trump administration in the Southern Caribbean, with 26 people killed. Now, on hearing this, one of my therapy clients said, "I'm good with this. These are known drug routes. They're bringing drugs into the U.S., and it has to stop." Well, doesn't that make sense? The answer is actually no. Why? Because for more than 2,000 years, we've decided that this is usually not a good idea. So let's start with a phrase that you've probably heard 1,000 times. We're innocent until proven guilty. A very American idea, right? Well, actually, it goes back to ancient Rome. The Latin is translated as, "The proof lies with the one who asserts, not on the one who denies." Now, this idea goes deeper in a way that is written into our Constitution. First, there was the Fifth Amendment from 1791, which says that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Now, this applied to the federal government, but we decided that this was such an important idea that we then expanded it to the states in the 14th Amendment from 1868, which said that nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, and property without due process of law. Now, notice, this didn't say citizen. It said person, any person. And due process means that the government must follow fair, established rules and give you notice and a real chance to be heard before it can take away your life, your liberty, or your property. Now, I'm sure that we can agree that blowing up a boat is depriving a person of life, and that this would not be considered due process. Now, not only could you not kill someone, but the idea that you should not even imprison someone willy-nilly goes back to at least the year 1215 with the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta was the beginning of the rule of law in the English-speaking world. Clause 39 says that no free man should be imprisoned except by the lawful judgment of his peers or by the law of the land. The king couldn't just throw someone in a secret prison or kill them with no good reason. Now, this led to the acceptance in the English-speaking world of another old idea called habeas corpus. Now, this is Latin for "you shall have the body." It's a legal action that lets a person challenge unlawful detention. It's a court order requiring that the jailer bring the detained person before a judge and justify the detention's legal basis. If the state can't show a good reason, the judge can order that person released or the custody corrected. Now, once you're dead, you can't ask for a writ of habeas corpus. Now, it's also written into our Constitution that habeas corpus can't be taken away, it can't be suspended, except under very, very limited circumstances. Now, this is really important. Habeas corpus is often called the Great Writ because it makes the rule of law real. No person can be held just because the president says so. It's a fast and good way to prevent disappearances, secret jails, endless pretrial confinement, or blowing up any boat that we feel like because we decide that it's the right thing to do. Now, just for fun, let's throw in another one of the Bill of Rights, the Eighth Amendment, which says excessive bail should not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. I would contend that blowing up a boat and killing the people aboard would constitute a cruel and unusual punishment. And let's remember that in criminal cases, the jury must find guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, when people are not allowed to defend themselves and have their day in court, we can't say that there's no reasonable doubt about their guilt. So it seems that these protections, which are in our Constitution and in the laws of many places for, well, thousands of years, are really important in America. Why would we have these protections and rights when we could just make things so much easier by blowing up boats? Now, one of the biggest problems with doing that is that you could blow up someone who's innocent. And that's a big problem. The granting of these rights in our Constitution was deeply influenced by a man named Blackstone, who said that, quote, "It is better that 10 guilty persons escape than that one innocent suffer," unquote. He said that the first duty of criminal justice is to protect the innocent. The harm of punishing one innocent person is a greater wrong than the harm of letting several people go free, especially because criminal punishment can be severe. It's often irreversible, like when you get killed. And government power, if not tightly checked, tends toward abuse. Now, he wasn't the only one to say this. The person many consider to be the greatest Jewish philosopher of all time, a guy named Maimonides, went even further. He said that it's better that 1,000 guilty go free than one innocent be executed. Maimonides recognized that human judgment is fallible, and that once you're dead, there's no coming back. So the legal system must be designed to overprotect the innocent, even at the cost of guilty people escaping punishment. On a moral level, one wrongful execution is a greater evil than a guilty person going free. Even on a religious level, if the guilty evade human courts, divine justice remains. But if the state kills the innocent, the community carries a blood guilt. And here's the thing. Has the government provided any real evidence against any of those people on those boats? The answer is no. There's been no specific evidence of crimes committed by any of these people who were blown up. And if the government tends toward abuse and there's no due process to protect the innocent, shouldn't we protect and follow Blackstone and Maimonides? Think about it this way. Did you or anyone you know ever take drugs? Being in possession of certain drugs is illegal. Not only that, if you've used illegal drugs, you may have had a friend who sold them. Or maybe, at some point, just for convenience's sake, you sold them. Now, did you know that under President Rodrigo Duterte's 2016 to 2022 war on drugs in the Philippines, Philippine police and allied vigilantes killed large numbers of alleged dealers and users? Independent estimates put the total at roughly 12 to 30,000 people. These were considered potential crimes against humanity. However, our current president consistently praised Duterte and his drug war rather than criticizing it. In a call from April 29, 2017, Trump told Duterte that he was doing an, quote, unbelievable job on the drug problem, unquote, and invited him to the White House. So, what if the same were happening here instead of in the Caribbean Sea? What if we wanted the drug problem to stop, so the government figured that if they just killed a few thousand users and dealers, people would probably stop dealing and using? And the people they killed were you, your friends, your son, your sister. No arrests, no due process, no habeas corpus, just blow them up. It would probably stop some drug use, but at what cost? And would it actually solve the drug problem? And would the point of those extrajudicial killings really be about drugs? Ask yourself that. Now, how about this? There have been hundreds of thousands of drug deaths in America. It's a scourge, and it needs to be stopped. But is the cause the boats coming from Venezuela? If in fact these boats were carrying drugs, it was probably cocaine, which isn't the thing that's killing Americans. The fentanyl that kills people usually travels over land routes. Now, let us think about who's on those boats. Let's say they are delivering drugs. Do you think that these are the high-level drug traffickers? Those people never go on the boats to deliver the drugs. Evidence indicates that they are overwhelmingly poor mariners from coastal Latin America and the Caribbean. Many of these people are low-level couriers. They're fishermen or day laborers, paid small sums. They're recruited from impoverished ports, sometimes under pressure or threat from trafficking groups. They may be terrorized into doing a gang's bidding. Now, Trump and his administration may justify these killings by saying that these people are terrorists. But are they? Actually, they're someone's father, son, daughter, or mother. And then, do we really even know what's on these boats? It's reported that something like 58% of the boats that are stopped by the Coast Guard that are suspected of having drugs result in no drugs found. That would suggest that they're wrong about half the time. Now, if we want to guess that these statistics apply to the blown up boats, it would mean that about 14 of those people killed were not running drugs, and the rest who were running drugs were poor people being abused by traffickers. That certainly goes against what Maimonides said and what our Constitution protects. And will that stop the flow of drugs that kill people? Clearly not. So, where do the drugs come from that kill people? A lot of the opiates that have killed Americans over the last decades originally came from a large pharmaceutical corporation called Purdue that was run by the Sackler family. Now, though I don't think you'd approve of blowing them up, the reality is that none of the Sackler family, which ran the pharmaceutical company that marketed the opiate OxyContin and most likely contributed to hundreds of thousands of American deaths and which led to the heroin and fentanyl crisis, none of them have suffered a criminal conviction. So the rich and powerful, who might be actually responsible for our drug crisis, are able to use the protections afforded by our system to suffer no punishment, while some poor fisherman who's forced to deliver some cocaine ends up getting killed. That poor person has no opportunity to take advantage of Habeas Corpus, the protections of the Constitution, and due process, protections that have been around for thousands of years because we understand that one wrongful death is far worse than a missed conviction. But not in this case. Do we want to live in Duterte's kind of country where thousands of your friends and relatives can be killed for having some fun on a Saturday night? For all the people I know who were doing all kinds of drugs, I don't think so. Now, it's very easy to think in a shallow way that drugs are bad and people on the boats are the bad guys causing the problems, and that if we blow them up, it's okay and we'll solve the problem. We built these protections into our Constitution because it's very human to fall into this kind of lazy thinking, and because the powerful may abuse our tendency to think this way to kill whoever they want and gain control over the population through their own use of terror. So, why is it a bad thing for our government to blow up boats? Because in every way, it's immoral, it's bad, it's wrong, and it's un-American.